Welcome to the BRC Navigator training series. In this video, with the help of our trainer Brian, we will walk through the process of submitting a new submission in the BRC Navigator program portal. If you are having difficulties with topics covered in this video, please submit a help desk ticket at mass.gov/EECBRC or call the EEC BRC Contact Center at 617-988-7841. The request type of new submission is used for candidates that either have never had an EEC BRC run in the past or their most recent EEC BRC was submitted in the old BRC manager system prior to October 1st, 2017.
Here is your new submission. If you hover over any of these icons, it'll tell you what they are. So we'll do a new submission. This is where you're going to enter all of your new BRCs. So I'm going to go through and just create a candidate. First name Brent. The one thing to note, the hover icons. I just hit tab after I typed in Brent, and it knocked me over to this hover icon, the black question mark. If you also hover over yourself with your mouse, you can see it pops up some additional information. So the first one, next to the name, it's important. I'm going to read this aloud. When entering the candidate's information, you must use their exact legal name as appearing on the identification document used to validate the candidate's identity. So it is very important when you're entering information, and remind the candidate to make sure they give you the correct information on the consent form, but enter it slowly and accurately. Enter the last name, date of birth. If you remember when we talked about the search bar, you can type in a date of birth with a backslash or forward slash. I call them backslashes. Some would call them forward slash. You can type it that way, or you can use a dash. And once you click off of this, it'll always revert back to the backslash. Okay. Social Security number. If the applicant has been issued a Social Security number, they must provide it. Requires the last 6. Again, I'm going to reiterate this. We're in a training environment. In the production, in the live environment, down here, you're going to have the ability to download the consent form. In my training environment, it's on a different page. It has been relocated. It's right under this applicant consent received. You can see if you don't click off on this radio button, you can't search. You can't try to find this person. You have to agree that you received the consent form. Once you do that, you can see that this button, the search button, is highlighted. Now you can click it. Okay, so I've entered the information. No applicants were found. That is looking across the whole database of the BRC Navigator system. They do not work in another program. They do not work in another umbrella. They are not in the database. So they're applying for a job at one of my programs under Berkshire Family YMCA. So I do want to create a new application. I'm going to do that. You can see it's a new submission. And here's where a licensee or BRC program admin would choose exactly what program under the umbrella they want them in. We'll choose the Berkshire Family at Williams. Gives you the applicant's role. We'll leave it as employee. Some of the information is carried over from that first page. You can, again, as they typed it on the consent form, and hopefully that it matches their legal document. If it's a middle initial, you would type it here, or if it's a middle name, you would type that here. Maiden name. If it's a person that was married and they want to enter their maiden name, they should do it here. This, we'll just leave it as no. And if they have other aliases, this is a dynamic feature. You can add as many aliases as the person has. There's no limit. They can have an alias on first name or last name. For this, we're just going to leave it blank. Now, the one piece, I'm going to just make up a phone number here. Okay, I'm going to leave the email address blank for now. Date of birth has carried over. City of birth, we will just choose one that I have pre-populated. Okay, and we use Brent Jones. So we'll click off mail. So when I go to click next, you can see the email address needs to be filled out. This is a mandatory field. As potentially as a candidate, there's going to be important information that is communicated to the candidate through email. If they claim they don't have an email address, you should suggest that they create one using Gmail or whatever provider they want to choose, Yahoo, whatever it may be. But they should, they're going to need to create an email address. Next. Okay, so the address. I'll choose an address. And we'll pre-populate it with a city. That's fine. Over here on the residential address, see this radio button? You need to have a mailing address. If it's the same, you would click that radio button and it would automatically copy over. But this needs to be populated. If it's different, you would need to type it in. Lived out of state for the last 5 years. If you click yes, there is some information that you would need to fill in with their previous addresses. It's out of country. You would choose the country. And the requirement is, if you choose an out of country, the zip and state are not required for out of country. They're only required for US addresses. So you can see here, they both have that little asterisk next to it. And state and zip are required for US addresses. For now, for this example, we are going to hit no there. Okay. I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to hit next. Now, you can see the banner that comes up on top. At this point, the candidate is saved successfully, and they would show up on your Applicants tab. So if you got logged out, and I think it's 15 minutes of inactivity, you would get logged out, and you would need to log back in with the dual-factor authentication. But you could find them on your Applicants tab and resume from where you were. You'll also note now that you have a candidate and an application started, the bottom right, you can always delete the application. So if for some reason you chose to go another direction, you didn't want to finish it, you can delete it from there. Bottom right corner. Enter document type. So if they're going to bring a license, this is what you would want to do. Choose the license, type in the S number if it's a Massachusetts license. If it's another state, they may have a different format. It is not hard-coded to accept specific formats from different states. It's an open field, the document number is. So choose Massachusetts, and I'm going to make up expiration. Date format is entered. If they give you a scan of their license, you would want to upload it here. You would browse. If you had it saved to your local drive, you would browse and find it and attach it here. And that file would show up right here under the uploaded document. File name and the document type would show up under this black line. So at this point, I'm going to hit next. The one thing I do want to point out, because you might have seen it. Actually, that's on the next page. I'm going to hit next on the ID. Okay, and then we're going to consent. So this page like I said earlier, it's located, the download consent form is located here. Doesn't make much sense. It should be on the first page. In the production environment, it is. So when that gets rolled out, it will be on the first page. You'll see it. So we'll ignore that for now. And so from here, I'm going to hit submit application. So we're done. We've entered everything based on the consent form. We've submitted the application. It defaults automatically to the Applicants tab. And if you remember our search, I'm going to search on Jones. And there's our Brent Jones. It's a new submission. We did it as an employee. We created the request today. It's submitted. If you hover over it, it gives you that date. The fingerprint is it's being in process now. You can see the request status.